negate freedom from religion.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. I'd really like to open it up. I'm sure this has some of you thinking. Do you have something to contribute?
I do. I actually have a question.
Great. Go ahead and identify yourself.
My name is Jake Ellis. I'm a retired firefighter from the city of Boise.
Mm-hmm.
I retired after 27 years. And through those years, we responded on all kinds of calls, all kinds of different things. We were trained in recognizing child abuse and neglect, and we had a responsibility to report it, except sometimes. That's the challenge, is sometimes. So that was really hard calls for us, is that we had the capability, we had the resources, we were there to help, but we weren't allowed to. And then we were stuck. The question I had is, the last call I had was a 7-year-old that fell off a big inflatable slide. He had an angulated fracture in his right arm, landed on pavement. And he cried for an hour and a half while we were waiting because we couldn't do anything. But at the time, the congregation was split at this event. Some of the congregation were very angry that we weren't doing something. The other half were understood and were not letting us do something. The thing that came across, and it was rumored, somebody said that, and this goes down to the number, my question, is that when you say there was 12 reported, it was reported to us, apparently, that this mother actually has 6 children buried in the yard. And that's the question, is unreported deaths. If they're infants and not of school age, where they would be missed in the community, and if they're protected by the church, is there a possibility that our numbers are skewed?
I think there's a great possibility, and Erwin would probably know about that, because I'm curious, on a call like that, do you write in your report, no treatment given, religious exemption? Are there records?
There is, and in this case, it was actually an hour and a half. The lawyers for the hospital met with the prosecutor attorney. They came up with an agreement that this falls within Idaho guidelines, that either we treat or the mother will be held for neglect. And so they took it off us. We transported to the hospital and carried on care. But it took about an hour and a half to go through all that wrangling to work around this exemption. All the time while we're sitting and listening to a 7-year-old with a broken arm.
And what about on the coroner's side, when there's a death, is there no classification given as to whether it was a preventable death? You just report cause of death only? Other circumstances? Is any of that put on record?
By law, if our findings show something has taken place criminally, or we feel something has been, we're to see that it's turned over to the prosecutor. That's by law. So if the coroner has to turn it over for further investigation if we see it. So yeah, if we see anything, it's turned over. I mean, we call them up, say this is what it is, and you're saying it's this religious group, and they're going okay. And I can tell you, with a lot of, we did autopsies for 18 counties in Idaho, and from the different counties when they come in, the prosecutors all are very upset over the fact that they can't do anything when you're sitting around seeing a child die from a ruptured appendix, and it just goes on, and they, and die from peritonitis. I mean, but they can't do anything about it. So, it's frustrating, but that's just